was there. I don't have to listen to it.
This week's show because it was a disaster.
When you live in a beach resort, it's easy to forget whether you are playing or working. On each week's show, we settle in with a cocktail and try to figure out if there is a difference. This is Day Drinking on Delmarva.
I am Todd from GoodCleanFunLife.com.
And I'm Tony Russo, no relation, and you're listening to Day Drinking on Delmarva, a show about life and culture on the Delmarva Peninsula. Todd drinks because he gets to live here. I drink because I have to live here. And this is a good week to be drinking because it's not a great week to be living here for me. We'll get into that in a little bit. It's been a couple weeks off. We are sorry about that. A little sorry. I think that we should do a better job in telling people when we're not going to have shows. And usually we're good. But last week it was just me forgetting. And
yeah,
I had my phone off and Todd is like, what's going on? And I didn't even check my phone until like 6 o'clock at night. I'm like, oh, shit.
It's one of those things where it's, when I don't hear from you, my first thought is you said something and I forgot.
Yeah.
And then my second thought is, no, Tony forgot and I'll be fine.
Yeah. And I think that's the first time that I have flat dead. Like there have been times where it's been like, we usually record either at 2 or 3. So maybe like a half hour before the show, I'll be like, shit, I'm not going to be able to make it, or I have something and I'm not going to be able to finish it. And I've had to cancel at the last minute, but it's been a rarity that Todd just reaches out to me. And like a day later, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Do we have a podcast that we've been doing on Wednesdays for the last 20 years? I slipped my mind.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy, but tons of stuff to talk about. Before we get into the things we want to talk about, our sponsor. Our sponsor is a local business that we like to do business with. And in this case, it is Good, Clean, Fun Life Productions.
Yes. Good, Clean, Fun Life Productions. All of your website, digital marketing needs, still trying to figure out. We're not trying to figure out. We're still actively participating in the social experiment that is social media, constantly trying to make the best of whatever they're deciding to throw at us at the current time. So yeah, and also making sure that we're covering those cornerstone types of content, such as podcasts and long format videos for YouTube, and that you can embed on your website and testimonial type stuff. I have quite a lot of footage from the summer. And as the summer's winding down, we'll soon be putting together sort of a compilation of the things that of the summer that was. And it's always a great time to kind of, you're so in the moment looking at, what's happening that week. And it's always fun to look back and be like, oh man, we've been 100 places, seen 100 faces type,
And just because I really might not know, you mentioned that like there was a new social media platform that I hadn't heard of yet.
Yes. Be Real is one of the newer platforms, and this is made by I don't know who, which is kind of refreshing. But the whole idea is that you get a notification, you sign up for the network. It's only friends that you invite to follow or that you choose to follow. And it is sort of the opposite of what Instagram has become, but in some sense also what Instagram was from as the original Instagram. Instagram was, you would post a picture of your lunch, your day, somewhat your sort of ordinary life, and share it with just the people in your network. So Be Real, BEREAL, is a network that is sort of capitalizing on the anti-sentiment to become TikTok famous. And
yeah, when is that going to stop? I really thought that would be over by now. As quickly as these things rise and fall, I really felt like people would, like, no one could watch TikTok for more than like a minute without having an aneurysm.
A lot of people watch TikTok for a very long time. Well, and we were just actually listening to kind of a breakdown of what's happening with Instagram, and there was a lot of pushback when they started to become more TikTok-like, more focusing on video content. which video content is good in one sense if it's well produced and well thought out and that sort of thing. But when it's just kind of like imitating what everybody else is doing, and kind
And
of
that is so much
lowbrow.
of what social media is to me, and it's one of the things that makes it very difficult for me to participate. I'm like, okay, again, the meme culture thing, like the first time,
Yeah.
maybe it was funny,
Yes.
but after that, you're just. And what's frustrating I'm sure it's frustrating to you, but what's frustrating to me as a guy who tries to make new things is when you try to make new things, they're like, well, I know that's new, but do you have anything that's like what everybody else is doing? Because that's what's very popular right now. And my answer is no, I'd rather be poor.
Yeah.
I'd rather be poor than have to figure out, it was always a problem with me working at oceancity.com. They were always like, oh, look, this is popular on Facebook. We should do it. And I'm like, that's not why you hired me. You should have hired someone dumber and cheaper.
Yeah.
Because
Well, yeah.
I don't want to do that.
And that's what we are in the struggle of doing. And when you're doing something for a business, like I would imagine a small business who doesn't have somebody like us who's dedicated and thinking about it and looking at it from a holistic perspective, like, is this going to be around in a year? Is this going to serve your business and your clients that you have right now? Or are you just doing it because quote unquote, everybody else is doing it?
Mm-hmm.
And, we take it, take a serious look at it. We experiment, we dabble, we go back to what has worked before, and we're kind of all consumed in finding the best practices for our clients.
Yeah, and
So
also not to be too obsequious about it, but when you guys have your own voice. So even when you're like, okay, everyone's doing, I don't remember if you did the water challenge, but let's pretend you did the water challenge 100 years ago, right? What are we going to do the water challenge thing? You're like, okay, how can we do it and still make it us? Like you guys have a voice, and even when you're doing something that's kind of in the zeitgeist, you're doing it in your own voice, which is rare. And I think it's cool that your clients kind of let you get away with it, to kind of play that middle ground where, like, yes, we know that we have to participate in this thing because we are zeitgeist type people, but we don't have to be lame about it.
Right.
And I think people skip the don't have to be lame about it part too often.
Right. And then there's you, on the other hand, that if we did it in your voice, it would just be a lot of yelling.
It would just be mean. Yeah.
That actually is a very good point. And, I stand behind the work that we do and kind of the approach that we bring as being very tailored to our clients. I mean, we're a small outfit. We can only take on so much. And we're not looking to, to get too big for our britches either. So, I mean, that's where we are. If you do work with us, and we're always happy to talk to people about what's best for them and best for their business or new business, or, whatever they're looking to do in the digital realm.
Now, I didn't want to get baited into a who's on first situation, so I left this question for later. Did you earlier say that you didn't know the name of the company that made Be Real, or is Be Real made by a company called I Don't Know?
It is. I don't know who created it.
Right.
I guess the point of that is it wasn't another spinoff of
Twitter didn't make it.
Twitter or Facebook or something like that. So
I want to talk a little bit about our one cool thing. Each week we talk about one cool thing that happened to us because we worked here or because we live here. And for me, it's because I work here, because I found something weird and cool and strange on the internet, believe it or not.
Wow.
And I don't know if everybody knows about this or not. So I might think I'm telling you guys something new that's been around for 1,000 years, but I think it's new-ish. So my new job, I'm the editor for a funeral director magazine. So I write for funeral directors about the funeral business. I cover everything having to do with death, dying, and what happens
business side.
Right. And what happens to you after you die. And I don't mean going to heaven. I mean, do you go in the ground? Do you get put on fire? Do you get, turned into, I saw this, I'll get to that in a minute. But this week I'm working on a story about embalming, changing embalming methods and things like that. And I put in quotes embalming into Google, And then I clicked on news to see what embalming news there was.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a game called Mortuary Assistant, where you have to embalm the body while being attacked by monsters. And sometimes the body comes to life and attacks you as well.
It seems like the priorities would shift if you were in that situation.
And
right?
well, it's really strange. And it's also the funeral. It's called the funeral service. I think it's called funeral service. I don't think you put the there, but I don't remember all the time. In the funeral service, there is this kind of weird divide between the very old guard, who are people, like a guy called me to ask me if I still had a directory of funeral directors. And I'm like, no, I use google.com when I need to find a business's name and its address.
Yeah.
I don't have, they used to sell a 700-page book and people used to buy. The last time we put out this 700-page book was in 2010. People were still spending hundreds of dollars
that's
for
late.
essentially a phone book of funeral directors a decade ago. Because that's just to give you the sense about kind of like the transitional aspect of it. You have a lot of old guys in their late 70s and early 80s who are still running the show.
Right.
And they're like, I don't want to go to Google. Can I just have the book so I can look it up in the book?
Right.
And then you have like the up and coming funeral directors. TikTok is actually very popular among some of the younger funeral directors. My wife is in charge of that. She helps me. She's my research assistant because I can't. I tried. I can't. And so she sent me this interesting TikTok video, and a funeral director was showing like how to close a casket, because if you just like drop it, it makes a sealant sound like Tupperware. It makes a Tupperware sound if you don't close it the right way. And you don't want a Tupperware sound while the family's standing there,
Yeah.
And so things like that. And they're doing something to try to normalize death and the dying and the post, it's called disposition. What happens to your body after you die? And there's this weird balance, like funeral directors with tattoos. Our main magazine is, I think, called American. Not I think. Our main magazine is called American Funeral Director, and a couple months ago they ran a cover story on a young funeral director, and she had tattoo sleeves, and some of them were visible, and we got hate mail.
Wow.
For condoning tattoos on, well, I guess A, condoning female funeral directors, and B, condoning tattoos upon them. So
that's a double doozy.
So I sent this video to 3 embalmers that I interviewed for my story, and I'm like, have you seen this? What do you think? And one guy called me and he wasn't happy. Let me put it that way. And a younger woman called me and she said, all right, I don't like perpetuating the this is gross kind of attitude. This is kind of a beautiful embalming is kind of a beautiful process, and it's very personal, and it's a transformation. And she's like, but the art in that was really, really cool. And so that's kind of like the weird balance that we're striking. But have you heard this? Did you know that there was a video game called Mortuary Assistant where you
No.
And you have to go, you have to select, because I don't know if you know this or not. I didn't. There are different like gauges of formaldehyde, of embalming fluid, depending upon, like, are you dehydrated? Were you left to decompose for a little while? Like,
right.
And like they have like different gauges to get you to the right amount of freshness, I guess is the best way to put it. And
the art and the science of it. Right?
It really, and it is super cool and super fascinating. But in the game, you have to choose the formaldehyde, you have to take out all the blood, you have to push the formaldehyde through the body and do all the preparations. And meanwhile, demons are attacking.
That is fascinating. Like who comes up with the idea? I mean, I understand the old art. Let's make a video game and you're in a mortuary and you have to fight off something. but like to have something the goal be so specific that you're actually doing the embalming work is
Well, with any luck, I'll be talking to the developer late this week or early next week, and I assure you I will follow up because I want to do. I mean, I was excited about the story on it, and then once I talked to all the embalmers, and they were not happy.
man,
So
that is funny.
I'm gonna have to find a way, but I already committed to this interview, and I'm interested in it. So I feel like I want to put it out there and like get like I want to tell him. I'm like I talked to some embalmers, and they thought it was kind of, disrespectful, and I'm sure I wouldn't be the first person to say that,
Yeah.
And he was, and one of the people were like, "How would you feel if everybody said that all reporters are liars?" And I'm like,
They say that all the time.
They do say that.
Yeah.
But I'm a grown up and I ignore them because So
yeah, because you tell the truth.
Yeah, it's so anyway. So that was my one cool thing that I definitely wanted to talk about before we run out of time. And I know that you have some stuff you want to talk about, so I want to get to you. And if we can get to the rest of my stuff, that's fine. But if we don't, that's fine as well, because you've been on a concert going binge.
Well, it's mentioned it on the show probably week.
The drinks we're sponsored by is coffee today. It's this morning's coffee. I just got thirsty. We forgot to mention it. Sorry, sponsors.
And this is appropriate that my drink of the day is Liquid Death.
There you are.
Liquid Death sparkling water, which is a genius idea. Let's take water that's so ubiquitous in single-use plastic, but instead let's put it in cans. And so it's more easily recyclable. I think that's kind of the whole point. But and then it's got a cool skull on it. Like I'm sure that the old guard embalmers probably might not care for that. But speaking of Liquid Death and culture and some of the things that we do, yes, we have been working at Freeman Stage as we have the last couple summers and have the opportunity to see some great acts. This past week, we actually had some of the best music of summer that I've been able to enjoy, both at the Freeman Stage and then also at the Starboard, our number one bar and restaurant client up in Dewey Beach, of course. But it started off with somebody Friday the 19th of August. Elvis Costello came to the Freeman Stage, and really they've had a bunch of older acts. They've had Jackson Browne, and they've had Boz Scaggs and some people who have, in my opinion, maybe been hit or miss. Jackson Browne I really enjoyed, but a lot of these older acts that are coming through are really, really sounding good, and Elvis Costello was no exception to that. And it was one of those things where I had a CD back in college, a single Elvis Costello CD. I had to look it up after the show because I couldn't even remember the name
Elvis
of it.
Costello and the Attractions.
In the Attractions. It was Get Happy was the album.
I'm
and
sorry.
It was it's something that was just in my regular rotation. It's like, back when you actually had to go through the physical motion of loading something into a CD player and pressing play. I think in college you had like a 5-disc player if we were really doing well, and like that was consistently one of my top 5 CDs that I would listen to. And so then to be able to see him 30 years later, and for him to look and sound fantastic, and be able to shoot the show as well was really super fun. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum is one of my favorite nights of summer, which is the Andy Frasco show. And Andy Frasco in the UN, somebody that you don't know, but I've probably have talked about every year around this time. He's a traveling musician or touring musician on the road, probably like 300 dates a year for the past 12 or 13 years now. and started playing at the Starbird about 6 years ago, if memory serves. And at that time, he was, he had been in that 10-year rut of just like cranking out on the road, in the van. It's grueling work.
I can imagine.
I mean, it's for a love, and it's fun, but at the end of the day, it is work. And you neglect so many things, family, settling down, all of this. But what's most interesting, I think, is that in the last couple years, he's gotten on sort of the jam band touring circuit. So playing more festivals, he's been exposed to a bigger fan base that's been very welcoming to him. And he's had some much, much bigger gigs. He's then also kind of focused on his music a little bit more, and he's refined it and done some more like album and radio friendly stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so to sort of see the transformation over the last 6 years of him, kind of seeing all the work that he's put in come to fruition, and being able to play these much bigger venues, for him to still come by and play the Starbird, which is, a tiny room, and he's very energetic, very talented, and the room can literally barely hold him. And to see him in that sort of environment it's just one of my favorite, like I said, one of my favorite shows, events of the summer. And so I was pretty excited to share that, as always. And that's one of the great things, we always talk about, like, being down here at the beach, and Freeman Stage is a much larger venue. The Starbird is a much smaller venue, but over the years, they both, the area has become more of an area where you can have some of those so great
Nice
acts
mixes
coming through. Yeah.
I'm sorry, is the Rusty Rudder even still open? Is that a place anymore?
It is a place. It's, it has been doing the same thing it's been doing for the better part.
They always got big acts, right? Didn't they always get big acts?
So there's the Rudder, and then there's the Bottle and Cork. And the Bottle and Cork is only open during the summer, and they will have some big acts come through. They've definitely leaned into more of the popular stuff with the country music, which is fine for people who like.
But that's why it hasn't been mentioned.
That's why I haven't mentioned it, because that's not.
I have something
really
to say about country music, and I don't know if I'm going to get to write the. I forget which way my hair goes. Hold on for just a moment. So
Okay.
my hair needs a cut, and I keep not cutting it, and so now I have a hairband.
Oh, nice!
Look at this. It's 1986 again.
Yeah, you
kind of look like, huh?
You kind of look like Loverboy.
Yeah. All right. So, I over the last few days have been obsessing over the song "I've Got Friends in Low Places" by Garth Brooks. And it drives me crazy. The song has always kind of driven me crazy because it's a Tom Waits song, and nobody seems to know that. I'm sorry, Tom Waits didn't write it.
Okay.
But it's a song about sadness and awfulness and tragedy.
Right.
And no one, and everybody's clapping along. They're like, yeah, I'm your friend in Low Places. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
This is a guy who got blind drunk and showed up at an ex-girlfriend's wedding. And he's making it like, you guys just don't appreciate me. No. We appreciate you. We would appreciate if you went home and didn't come to our fucking wedding.
Yeah.
And it's like that. It's not, people think it's a working class hero song. People think it's a Billy Joel song, but it's a Tom Waits song.
Right.
That's what I want to say about Friends in Low Places a full 30 years after the goddamn thing came out.
Yeah.
Because I think it came out either in the late 80s or early 90s. It's an old song, but you know the song I'm talking about.
Oh, sure. And as much as I say that I'm not a country fan, I'm pretty sure Friends in Low Places played at our wedding.
Oh, it had to. I played it 1,000 times when I was a wedding DJ. I know all the words. Would you like to hear them? And that's what And that's the thing.
And
like,
everybody knows all the words.
and they play over and over in my head, and it like bothers me. It's like, no. So the song, it's hi, I was poorly raised,
Yeah.
and I'm wearing boots where everyone else is wearing shoes. Like, I'm poorly
Right.
raised. I don't know how to dress. I
Don't know how
showed
to
up
fit
drunk
in.
to some place I wasn't invited. Let's celebrate me.
Right.
And the song is perfect
Yeah.
if it's a Tom Waits song,
Right.
but it's sad if it's a Billy Joel song.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of, nobody thinks the Piano Man is all about happy people.
Right.
But Billy Joel does have like this, I'm a working class guy, and or Bruce Springsteen song. Maybe better to put it that way. People think it's a
Right.
Bruce Springsteen song, but it's a Tom Waits song. I mean,
No,
I think even Garth Brooks thinks it's a Bruce Springsteen song.
Well, at this point, it's a sing-along that's like, yeah, it's okay to get drunk. And these are my drunk friends. And,
And I'm for all of that. I think the celebrating the denial rather than pitying the denial is where well, I'm sorry, that and also being country is kind of where the song loses me.
okay, well, I have one for you.
Okay.
A song that's been bothering me for years. And that's, who's it? Escape by, who's that? Rupert Murdoch or something? Not
The Pina Colada song?
The Pina Colada song.
Yes. About
which
the worst, written about by the worst people in the world for the worst people in the world.
Right. Hey, so we're both thinking about cheating. Isn't this hilarious that we're trying to cheat, but also with ourselves? Let's just have a drink and have a chuckle over this.
And what's frustrating about that song is they could have had the conversation like, how long are you together? Where you're like, hey, I've never been so bored with my wife that I haven't said, hey, let's try to do this kooky thing. Like, I'll say, hey, let's go skateboarding. No.
Right.
And she'll say no. I mean, I would never say that, but let's pretend. I said, let's go skateboarding. She said
fun.
no, but then she would never say, I wish I knew someone who liked to skateboard, because I mentioned that I like skateboarding.
Right.
How not talking to your wife are you?
What poor communication.
That she doesn't know you like champagne. Like, the first thing you do when your marriage is failing is bring home a fucking bottle of champagne. How did you not get to step one before you started looking through the personal ads?
Or how many times have you been, caught in the rain and like just said nothing?
Yeah. Not like held hands and skipped and laughed, but like, oh, this is miserable. I hate you. Let's get in the car. Like,
yeah. Let's know. Something.
Yeah, I don't think they solved their problem in Escape.
Yeah.
Just real quick, I had all sorts of mean things to say, but I'm going to limit it to Sweet Lou Taylor because we are out of time. And you'll see this on the news tonight, probably, or someplace. But Worcester County either licensed or didn't license a bunch of Disney logos to put on their thing for the year. And there's no solution. There's no good answer to that.
Yeah.
Because if you paid money to license mouse ears in a poor county, just so you could have T-shirts that anyone would like, you're talking about like, who cares about Mickey Mouse? Well, the K through 6, let's say, cares about Mickey Mouse, right? They're already wearing Mickey Mouse shit all day for free.
Right.
To advertise more Mickey Mouse, to pay for the county to pay to advertise more Mickey Mouse stuff is despicable.
Yeah.
For the county to not pay and just steal the Mickey Mouse stuff is also despicable. Right?
What's the likelihood of which way do you think it goes?
I don't know. It's so stupid that I can't imagine. And that's what's baffling. I can't imagine that they're stupid enough to infringe on Disney.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine that they're stupid enough to pay for Disney logos for the, and I mean, unless Disney has a hey, use our logo policy for schools,
Yeah.
which
That's
makes
the only plausible explanation that I can think of, because Disney is very well known
they
as
take
being
that
like
shit seriously.
taking that shit very seriously and like basically creating, copyright just to protect themselves and only to
Yeah.
protect themselves. Yeah.
And I mean, I recall like it was a popular thing, I think, in the 1980s, where if you didn't like a business and you saw that they were using Mickey Mouse or Donald Duck, like they would like individual preschools got, cease and desist notices from
Yeah.
Disney. Or maybe they've just taken the Brewer approach where they're going to use it once and stop using it the moment they get their cease and desist orders. But like they printed t-shirts. They have
Wow.
a bunch of Disney stuff that they're using, and I don't know. Maybe
So
it's
what?
just,
So is the rollout that we're going to read about in the news that they're rolling it out, that they're talking about it, or is there any controversy over it yet?
oh, there's only I mean, I'm the only one who cares enough to.
Yeah.
Who else? Seriously, who else on this peninsula sees a school use Disney in their promotion and says, "Oh, they either stole that or paid for it, and both instances are bad"? No one says that.
Yeah. Yeah.
No one gives a fuck but me.
Yeah. That checks out.
About Disney, right? And like, I'm not going to bat for Disney. I'm not going to tell them. I hope they stole it from Disney. But I mean, for people who are teachers, it's really hard to say, okay, now we're going to talk about intellectual property and not plagiarizing.
Yeah.
Open up your knockoff Disney notebooks.
Yeah.
And right, I will never steal from the House of Mouse 1,000 times.
Oh man.
So.
I've heard that there's a bust of BLT right as you walk in the Board of Education, like a bust with a spotlight on it.
Oh, I hope that's true.
I've been from a pretty reliable source.
I hope that's true, because there's a man who thinks he's in a Billy Joel song, but is in a Tom Waits song.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, well, at least we have a title. I'm going to actually be able to write about something this week for the big show. Yeah. We are up against it though, so let's knock it off. I got plenty of stuff. If anybody wants to follow me on social media, I still go on. Oh, I'm sorry. I see that your wife is in the background, and I wanted to say, from everyone on Twitter, happy birthday, Natalie. I'm sorry that they spelled your name wrong. Happy birthday, Natalie is trending on Twitter.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Natalie is trending on Twitter. All right. We'll check that out.
So tell her happy birthday from me and the folks at Twitter. And I got nothing else anyway. How about you?
Escape was written by Rupert Holmes.
But
I got nothing.
All right. Well, until next time, remember, at the beach.
It's happy hour whenever you say it is.
Cheers.